Hello again, 121. To conclude this section for exam number 4, the first part of chapter 18, I'm going to go over the leading figures of the scientific revolution. I think it fits better with the Renaissance and the rebirth of learning that took place earlier, and that's why I include this chapter, even though the rest of 18 with the French Revolution I pick up with in World Civilizations 2 in the spring. I just think this part fits better as an end to World Civ 1. Copernicus, heliocentric theory, or the sun-centered theory, which rejects the geocentric theory of Ptolemy, which had been formulated in the Hellenistic age of the Greeks. Copernicus is a key figure in formulating this new revolution in astronomy, and Kepler confirmed this. He was a mathematician who said that there is an elliptical, not circular orbit of, or egg-shaped elliptical of the planets around the sun. And that was the complete end of the Ptolemaic system. Galileo was another mathematician. He was one of the first to make systematic observations of the heavens by means of telescope. And that was a key technological development of the time. They were able to grind better glass, and as a result of that, the telescopes that were constructed were much more effective and magnified things much better than what they had previously had prior to the 14th and 15th centuries. Galileo seemed to feel that the universe was made up of similar material as on Earth, and this got him into hot water with the Roman Catholic Church. He was forced to abandon his beliefs. He was condemned as being a heretic for preaching against church findings, and he recanted his findings until the end of his life. Newton is a famous Englishman. The Newtonian universe will guide the world into the 20th century. He invented the calculus and discovered the universal law of gravitation. And Newtonian synthesis created a new cosmology of the universe. The universe was seen as one huge regulated machine that operated according to natural laws in absolute time, space, and motion. And Newton's world machine concept dominates, again, as I said, until Isaac Newton and the theory of relativity. Newton viewed God as being this master mechanic, and it was the job of human beings to discern these mathematical principles and godlike findings in order to find out how this universe worked. Descartes was a rationalist. He was a French philosopher. He begins from the idea of doubt. In his discourse on method, he explained his belief that he knew for sure that he existed because he thinks. I think, therefore I am. Descartes emphasizes the mind and the acceptance of things that his reason said were true. The mind cannot be doubted, but the body and the material world can. They must be different. There is an absolute, according to Descartes, dualism between mind and matter. This came to be called the Cartesian dualism. Using the mind and reason plus mathematics, humans can understand the material world. It's a pure mechanism. It's a machine governed by laws created by God, who was the perfect geometrician. And as a result, Descartes became known as the father of modern rationalism. And the split between the mind and the body, in other words, you have to do experiments, right? You must engage in empiricism, and that marked the Westerners to equate their identity with the mind and reason rather than with the whole organism, as Easterners did, especially East Asians, who believed that all knowledge was from within through self-contemplation. Now Westerners abandon that and begin to embrace more and more every century from 1600 on the scientific method. And historians have different reasons why the East didn't initiate the scientific revolution because they were the most advanced civilization in the 1300s. And after 1550, the West becomes more technologically advanced. Order, not competition. Live in harmony with nature, not dominate it. The civil service exam took the best and the brightest in East Asia, and that was really what existed until the 20th century. The Enlightenment was a huge intellectual movement that was founded by intellectuals impressed with the scientific revolution. You must use reason to understand all life. This led them to believe that they could make a better society than the one they had inherited. Reason, hope, natural law, and progress are the buzzwords of 18th century Europe. And two Englishmen were the major sources of inspiration, Newton and his world machine, and John Locke. They were both convinced that they could discover these natural laws that govern politics, economics, justice, religion, and the natural world. There's a picture of Locke at age 72, the years he was born. And his philosophy implied that people were molded by their environments. In other words, you're born with a tabula rasa, a blank slate, and it's slowly filled over the course of your life. And depending upon where you live and what that environment is, that slate may or may not be filled adequately. People perceive through their senses from their surroundings. People can be taught to be better people. This was what they all Enlightenment philosophers believed. The philosophes, this was a French philosophical movement, but it's also intellectuals from different fields that are listed there. And above all, the philosophes were social reformers, and they had a huge impact on the French Revolution, especially Montesquieu in his Spirit of the Laws, where he analyzed what he saw as natural laws of governments, and he found that there were three basic kinds: monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy, which can also devolve into despotism. In his analysis of the English Constitution, and this idea of these different kinds of government, and the idea that you need to separate these different powers of government, the power to make laws, the power to enforce laws, and the power to interpret what laws mean, they cannot all exist in the same body. They must be separated. And by doing this, you can then check those different powers, making sure that one of them does not become more powerful than the other. And that's a big influence on the American Revolution and the subsequent formation of the Constitution. Voltaire championed deism. He's a big advocate of religious toleration. That's built on the Newtonian world machine. Again, God is a master mechanic. The universe is a clock that is set in motion and runs according to natural laws. Diderot, be familiar with him. He invented one of the first encyclopedias, a 28-volume compendium of what they viewed as all the knowledge up to that point, and that was the great work of his life. And towards a new science of man, these trends led to the development of the social sciences: psychology, sociology, political science, economics, social sciences. They're not real sciences, but social sciences, the study of society and the individuals within it. Adam Smith, one of the first economics writers. In The Wealth of Nations, he believed that individuals should be free to pursue their own self-interest. All of society, therefore, benefits from that. Consequently, the state needs to get out of that way, because that is a disruption. Any government actions in a marketplace disrupts free enterprise and the natural economic forces that are governed by the invisible hand and its mysterious workings. Eventually, supply and demand cross at equilibrium or price, and there is no reason for government to get involved in that, or laissez-faire, hands off. Later Enlightenment, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the Discourse on the Inequality, he argued that in adapting laws to protect private property, man had become enslaved by government. And in the social contract, he argues that an entire society agrees to be governed by its general will. So if an individual puts his particular self-interest above the general will, he should be forced to abide by that general will. And this is where totalitarianism in the modern world derived from. It's what the entire community ought to do, and what that devolved into in the French Revolution, the Cuban Revolution, the Russian Revolution, is one group becoming more powerful than all the rest, namely the Communist Party. In Emile, Rousseau wrote about the importance of educating children, but he does not believe in education for women. There were women during the Enlightenment. Maria Winckelmann, was an outstanding astronomer in Germany, but she's denied a position because of her sex. Female thinkers in the 18th century disagreed with many of these male findings. Mary Wollstonecraft was the strongest advocate of the rights of women. She is a very early proto-feminist, and she is considered the founder of modern European feminism. And that's her book, The Rights of Women, from the very late 18th century. The subjugation of women to men is no different than forced subjugation of subjects by monarchs. If reason is innate in all human beings, then women have reason too, and they are entitled to the same rights of education in economic and political life. Culture in the Enlightened Age, they read magazines because, again, Gutenberg's press has been around for quite a while now, and things are printed in the vernacular or the everyday languages. And the carnival was a very popular form of entertainment. And that does it for this particular chapter.